I went to prison when I was 44 years old, and I took an adult daughter to prison. But I also was a daughter, and so I took my mom to prison. And the things that were important to me was to maintain both of those relationships.
Being incarcerated is an opportunity that most people never have in their life to sit down, be quiet with themselves for an extended period of time and really take that journey.
Because at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be an overdose, but take it in dosage. Change every day.
Yeah.
Grow every day.
Welcome to Come Home Ready. And hopefully you have watched the independent episodes with both Josh Pritchett and Donelle Drinks. But we were having some interesting conversations about parenting, and I wanted to make sure that we brought that conversation to you. I often talk about I went to prison when I was 44 years old, and I took an adult daughter to prison. But I also was a daughter, and so I took my mom to prison. And the things that were important to me was to maintain both of those relationships. I remember Lauren saying to me, Mom, what is your greatest fear? And I said that I won't be relevant to you anymore. It was a relationship that I had invested a lot of time into, and I did not want prison to change that. I didn't know how we were going to keep it going, but what I've learned from my own experience and watching a lot of other women, that people they found a way to make the relationships that mattered to them work. But it also required it to matter to someone else on the other side equally, because you can only do your part. And so I don't want to put pressure on anyone that you have to have a good relationship, because it's a two-way street. But I really am interested in hearing from you guys about fatherhood and your relationship with your children. Josh, I don't think you have kids. You're over there laughing already.
No. Yeah. I just try to cherry pick information from y'all's experience. Yeah.
For those listening, we're trying to get Josh to speed up his clock a little bit. But anyway, Donelle.
Well, truth be told, Josh is the one that initiated the conversation. So I think Josh is already leaning that way.
Yeah. Well, so Donelle and I chatted quite a bit, and you talk about your kids a lot. And I think one of the things that was interesting that you brought up was kind of the different stages of life that you were in as you had different children or became a father to each individual person. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of curious to me, because one thing you said was that your kids kind of get the best version of you at that time. Mm-hmm. And when you were youngest, I don't want to speak for you, but you were kind of the worst version of your, as most of us who get locked up early.
It's a fair assessment. And
he got better with time.
Yeah.
Let's just say it that way.
I got better with time, but also got better through practice. Mm-hmm. Your first kid, unfortunately, is always your trial and error child. And you learn how to be a parent, because initially you start parenting the way you were parented. And that's not always beneficial as you growing up. And especially when you're growing in dysfunction, you bring them traumas with you. So for me, my oldest child didn't get the best of me, because I didn't even know who I was. I was a child. I had my son at a young age. So as I matured, the lessons with him, I was able to give to my daughter. And now I'm able to give to my son. Which I'm perfected now, because I'm a perfect person now. Yeah. No, but the reality of it is, I think that when you're inside, one of the biggest things, and you said it and you articulated it so perfectly, you want to be relevant to your children. And for me, I tell the men that I used to be with on the inside that the best way to be relevant to your children, is to be relevant to yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes you a good parent, because there's no way you can have a child in this world and not know you owe them something. And that helps you with your maturation process. That helps you with your building. It's like, how can I be a good man, and how can I be a better father? And that's engaging in their lives, knowing what they are into, what they like, learn with them. And that's another thing that I think that is the benefit of the tablet. It allows you and affords you the opportunity to learn with your child. What are they learning? Let's engage together with it. For me, like I said, my incarceration predated the tablets in some instances. And so I would write little pages out and read and send it to her. She had to do it. I mark it up. With the teachers, I would write it every year. I am the father. I'm incarcerated, but I'm very instrumental in her life. I want to know what's going on. And that's something I didn't do with my son because I didn't know I could. But with my daughter, I realized I was able to do these things. So it's just the engagement and the connection because it will make you a better person.
Yeah, and you can see why I was asking him. It's like, hey, what did you do? What was I'm always looking for kind of like a roadmap, blueprint, try to glean some knowledge from somebody who's actually experienced and intelligent, whose information that I respect. And I mean, you obviously, if you listen to Donelle, like you respect kind of what he says. Like he's very thoughtful. So, anyways, he knows that I appreciate his opinion. But I think another thing that you had said was that it's an investment in a relationship. We were talking about mentorship, that you actually get to see the payoff of long term. And I kind of want to couch that a little bit by saying, like, I know a lot of people, especially in the system, like don't have maybe even the opportunity or ability to see the long term. Like there's a lot of strained and broken relationships. And that was kind of my experience. Like as the son, when I actually came into the system, I would refuse visits from my mother. And obviously, if you're in a prison, a lot of times you're a far distance away. And so if she didn't have my younger brother and younger sisters with her, I wouldn't even go to the visit. I just wanted to see this. So we had a very strained relationship, my father and I, worse. And so eventually we were able to kind of reestablish and build something newly for the very first time. But kind of like you mentioned, like the self-inward focus, that was the predecessor of that. It's like I had to heal, I had to develop, and then I became open to my parents and then building a relationship. So anyways, given that I've, there's some bumps in the road, and I'm sure for all of us, if somebody is figuring out a little bit how to do it well, I want to know what Donelle's third attempt, like how do I take notes on that? And you too, obviously you have a wonderful daughter, which, we all know. So, but anyway, that was the genesis of the conversation.
It was. And for me, you just triggered a thought for me. One of the reasons I think I became a better father is because I learned how to be a better son.
Yeah.
I had a strained relationship with my father as well.
Sure.
And so I had to actually have a conversation with him. I remember this visit, and he didn't know where he was walking into, but I had an epiphany before he came. And I was like, I got to talk to this dude. And so the conversation was, and I had just clearly told him, as a son, there's some things I'll never accept. But as a father now, there's a lot of things I get and I understand. And once I was able to get to that point, it shifted my relationship with my son. So I left room for him to have that same conversation with me. As a son, there's some things I'm never going to accept, Dad. But now as a father, I hope that he understands and he builds on it as well. Because that's the thing, I think when we go through the incarceration process, we're taught to be independent. You go on your own, you do this. Sure. But we don't understand the magnitude of how we're bringing our family along with us. And a lot of times we're snatched away. So there wasn't a healing process. There wasn't a separation period where we could prepare for it. It just was instantaneous. Yeah. So a lot of things that we were dealing with, we took with us. And then we're thrust into an incarceration process where other things are thrust on us. So we just burying that. That's not important right now. We do that like at home. And it hinders us. So when we're talking about fatherhood and being a parent, the first thing you got to do is be a good son, and that's why when that was just said, it was just so perfect, because I think as I learned to be a good son, that allowed me to be a good father, and I would dare say a good brother and nephew. Yeah, it opens up other relationships, because the investment part you said is so key. And we were talking about mentorship, and we were talking about how when you're incarcerated, a lot of the guys in there are incarcerated are mentoring other people, and that's the wonderful thing. But sometimes you'll mentor somebody and then they go on and you don't see the benefit of what you contributed, the fruits of your labor. And that's not because you're doing it for a selfish reason, but you would like to see what came of this person. With your children is a beauty in seeing their maturation process, seeing them go through stages, seeing them develop. Is a payoff that is, you can't explain it because you see it. Like, I get it, I remember you couldn't do this or you wouldn't do this. And they'll look at you. That is priceless. That's what I want you to experience. That part.
I think my father experienced that while I was incarcerated, because he and I obviously had a very strained relationship. And then I reached out to him kind of later into my incarceration, where I had kind of gone on a journey of like inward discovery, therapy, spiritual practices. I was kind of like the best version I had of me that had ever existed. And I reached out and I said, hey, I'd love for you to come visit. And this was the first time we had talked in years. And he came, and he told me years later that he had come with the intent of never seeing me again, of doing it just to say that he did it and check that off the list and then never come back. And he said what he found was totally unexpected, and he was very pleasantly surprised. And so he kept coming back. And I developed a relationship with my father that never existed through, a visitation room, through, the glass and the phone sitting. And my father's, pretty old school kind of guy. He doesn't talk about his emotions or even his thoughts, barely anything, unless it's work related, then. But, so we had to sit there and 45 minutes or whatever it was, like we built that relationship every Sunday or every Thursday, whenever. And by the way, that was kind of the point of connection, like staying connected or building a connection. And that was critical because when I got released, I didn't have anywhere to go. I wasn't going to a halfway house or anything because I had maxed out my time. So they were just letting me out. And I would have, honestly, I'd probably been homeless. Like I couldn't go to my mother's house. I didn't really have anybody else. And so I asked him if I could come live with him. And, to your point of like, you see this maturation so he saw me change. And he told me either you've genuinely changed or you've perfected the craft of manipulating and BSing. And my response to him was, you just have to find out. I mean, there's no words I can say to you to prove what the truth is, but I was confident in my own journey and my own change that I knew what the truth was, and there was no risk for me. And I said, well, if you're willing to find out, I think it'll be okay. Yeah.
But you'll have to watch Donelle's episode, because what you will find out is that was really cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Was that cool?
It was cool. Get cool points. Nice.
Yeah. Donelle talked a little bit about how, while you're in prison, some of the things that you need to do is work on yourself, and how, in general, for some folks, the tablets allow you to kind of go inward and maybe have a healing journey or whatever you need, And so what you guys are pointing out is the importance of content on the tablet that support men and women
for sure
on their healing journey of reestablishing family relationships and connections.
Yeah, and what the beauty that I love about the tablet is the personal connection with it. The earphones, the headsets. You're talking to me. I don't have to be one of many. My content is mine. It's an intimate exchange. That's the beauty of the tablet.
You're making me think about these tablets in ways that I haven't thought about it. I mean, you having a whole personal relationship with this tablet.
Because it becomes a lifeline. Good. It's a lifeline.
No, you're
right.
And
the thing is, and if you look at it from not a marketing perspective, but a true life-altering opportunity, you see the lifeline in it. It's my intimacy. It's mine. And one of the things, like I'm a voracious reader, and I love to fill a book. I love to turn pages.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
it's something to go for that, but it's not always convenient. When you're laying in your book, you can't always hold a book like this. It's not comfortable. But the tablet affords you certain accessibilities that you couldn't do at other places. So I think that when I speak of it, I'm speaking from a perspective of it really being useful in my journey. Really understanding the content. Like I say, control your content. So it's cool. It's real cool.
And I would say also, to your point on kind of understanding and discovering yourself, I think anybody incarcerated right now listening, one, I apologize. Two, you're not going to like hearing this probably. But being incarcerated is an opportunity that most people never have in their life to sit down, be quiet with themselves for an extended period of time and really take that journey that a lot of everyday citizens who are in the hustle and bustle just are not afforded to have. And if you can leverage that time to maximize your kind of self-discovery, self-understanding, then you can come out a person that better knows yourself, can better align your goals and your actions towards what you really want and what you really care about, maybe being a father, etc., or being a better son. But that's an opportunity. If you're just sitting on the bunk all day and like chilling, listening to music, playing cards, like be productive.
That's not cool.
Yeah, leverage the time, because, and you might still have 10 years on a bit or whatever, right? So I understand that's tough, but just don't waste the time. What you do have, use it, even if it's only 6 months.
And I'm gonna say to your point, I have to say, 24 hours incarceration is a lot longer than 24 hours in this free world.
For sure, yeah.
You're going to miss that 24 hours when you come home. There is not enough time to do what you want to do. Utilize it now. And that's one of the things that I think that I didn't fully understand, because I was someone that constantly go. And I would demand that from people that were in the free world. I was looking through that window too, and it's like, yo, do this,
like,
do
what
that.
are you doing?
Why you ain't doing nothing?
And they're like,
and
mind your business.
Mind your business. You don't respect my 24 hours. Because
Like,
my
we're
24
going to
hours
work.
is
We're
long.
paying for the calls. We're paying, they're supporting
Transportation,
we're sitting in
bills,
traffic.
eating. I got to sit in traffic. I got to catch an elevator.
Yeah, it's busy.
And all this eats up your time. So when you have an opportunity, and while you're incarcerated, you have opportunity and access to information, utilize it.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, it's the most valuable tool in the prisons right now.
Yeah, absolutely. As you've continued to talk about it, the one thing that has really has come out in talking to you today is when you're in prison, you have very few things that belong to you. Mm-hmm. And when you go to commissary, you buy things that are usually disposable.
Yeah.
Right? Great, got a bag of chips. Bag of chips are gone. Got soda, drank the soda. But what we're talking about is something that you can have that becomes a companion. Like the way you talk about it, it's a companion. Mm-hmm. And so some of the tools I know that some that are in our Justice Sandbox, it's designed, when we designed it, it was so that these tools become your companion. They help you do your time a very specific way. And to be clear, for me, and I know you guys aren't either. We're not saying, hey, everybody who's in prison deserves to be in prison. We know and believe that a lot of people are in prison and is serving entirely way too much time while they're in prison. So we know that, we get that. Mm-hmm. I think the only thing we're saying is while you're fighting your case, doing what you got to do, maximize the time.
Take advantage of the opportunity.
Just take advantage of every opportunity you can to tap into whatever resources, and the tablets do afford. In some cases, it democratizes. It provides a platform where everyone can get access to programming.
What I will say to that point, first of all, I want to share. I'll be vulnerably transparent.
Okay.
I still have my tablet.
Well,
I still have the first generation of tablet at home. I still have it.
That's wild.
And it's and I'll tell you why. Because some
framed
people,
up on the wall.
No, it's actually sitting in my gym.
Oh, did you pay for it?
Yeah, I paid for it.
Okay,
it's
got it.
mine.
All right. I had to think about that for a second.
I paid for it, and it's a whole lot of money. It's different states have different rules.
No, absolutely. I was like,
no, but the reason I say that is because when you leave prison, some people want to shed it and be done with everything.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But for me, it's a keepsake like my library. Mm-hmm. It helped me get to where I am. And that's what I'm saying to you. It's a relationship that I would cherish. It's a story. Some people still got 8-track players and whatever. So that's what it is for me. Yeah. But another thing that I really wanted to say was that in prison, everything is uniform. Mm-hmm. Everything is the same drab colors. Everybody go by a number, not a name. There is not much individuality. Your tablet is your individual self. If you're sincere about holding on to your individuality, make your tablet yours. How many things can you do that in prison? You alter something, that's altering clothes. That's a misconduct. You write on a wall, you paint yourself, altering things. Your tablet is an opportunity to alter you, and be personalized and change who you are with your content, control your content. And like I said, this is not a marketing of it. It's about utilizing what is accessible to you.
Yeah, it's kind of like a concentrated version of books. I would almost say.
Very.
Like, yeah.
You know what a person's into if you go there and look at their book collection.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody's in the cars, you go in their room and see a bunch of cars. You know, it's somebody's in the food, you see, cookbooks. So your tablet should be indicative of who you're trying to be. We opened this up talking about parenting.
Yeah.
There should be parenting books in your tablet. You know, we're talking about self-help books. There should be self-help books in it. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be an overdose, but take it in dosage. Change every day.
Yeah.
Grow every day.
Ooh, I tell you what, we started with parenthood and fatherhood. Took some other roads, but, I love these conversations with you guys and love, I just love hanging out with you guys, know, and love the information and inspiration you provide. Looking forward to becoming an auntie godmom. One day.
For his kids? You'll be waiting for a while. Hopefully.
We'll keep working on that.
We're still working on that one.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for having this short conversation and sharing with folks a variety of things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.